Council, come to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mandy, could you please call the roll?
Anstra?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Van Strylen?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes.
And Ravenhorst and Carl Keller absent.
The City Council has adopted a code of civility. As elected officials, we pledge to promote civility through extending respect to others, listening to understand, disagreeing without disrespect, engaging collaboratively on, and speaking up to address incivility. And as a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and broadcast for Pella TV. Anyone who speaks to council, please approach the podium over there before speaking so that those listening at home can hear you and also see you on camera. Can I get a motion for approval of the tentative agenda?
So moved. Support.
Van Strylen and Banstra, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Andy, please call the roll.
Van Strylen?
Yes.
Vanstra?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes.
This time we have opportunity for a public forum. Anyone wishing to address council regarding any agenda item, please step forward to that microphone, state your name and address, and please try to limit your comments to 3 minutes. Okay, seeing none, we will move on. Can I get a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
So moved. Support.
Banster, Van Strylen, any discussion? It's just a long list of special events, which is kind of cool. A lot going on in the next few months. You can tell it's springtime. Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Vanstra?
Yes.
Van Strylen?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes.
Motion passed. This time we have opportunity for a public hearing on adopting the fiscal year 26-27 budget and 5-year capital improvement plan. Mike?
I guess, Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to explain this item for those in attendance and those watching at home on Pella Fiber. I'd like to direct your attention to the big board for a brief presentation on this item. As Mayor DeWard stated, tonight's public hearing is on the proposed FY27 budget. This would be the budget that would start on July 1st of this year and extend through June 30th of 2027. What we have is a high-level financial overview of the 27 budget. And really, as council is aware, the city's made up of a lot of little fund operations on this. This combines all the city's funds together and operations as well. So when we look at the revenue, the sources of it, as you can see, we're just shy of $70 million in total proposed revenue for next year. As far as expenditures are concerned, we're just shy of $82.3 million in total expenditures for this. The lion's share of this is capital improvements when we look at the overall proposed drawdown of fund balance of $12.5 million. Two big projects that we have they're currently undergoing, or will be, hopefully one project anyway is currently undergoing, that's the city's recreation center. As council is aware, we issued the bond proceeds for that project in this current fiscal year. A lot of the expenditures for the rec center are taking place next year. And we also have ditto for the community center as well. With the community center, we're going to be actually using cash reserves for the community center, and that's right around $5.5 million. So when you look at the drawdown, proposed drawdown with the budget of cash reserves, a lot of it is just triggered by paying for capital improvements with cash reserves and a timing difference on bond proceeds for the recreation center. Heidi, let's go ahead, please. Now, as far as other brief overviews we have with it, let's talk a little bit. We talked about the capital project and the drawdown of fund reserves for the City of Pella. Let's go ahead and talk about the property tax rate. As far as the city's proposed property tax rate, we're proposing to maintain it at $10.75 per $1,000 in taxable valuation. As council is aware, we have one of the lowest property tax rates in the state of Iowa on this, and so this budget does not increase the city's property tax rate. However, due to the long-term capital improvement plans, we are proposing 10% increases in both water and wastewater fees with this. For the water utility specifically, we're proposing with this budget in the 5-year plan to add a third depot for the city's water utility. The total cost of the depot is right around $6.7 million. Overall, we believe rates could increase somewhere between 20 to 30% to fund that improvement for the water utility on this, and so it's an incremental approach with the 27 budget and a 10% increase in water fees. For the wastewater utility, we are facing mandates from the Iowa Department of Natural Resources, as most cities in the state of Iowa are, and this is for the nutrient reduction strategy. That would be new treatment standards that would go into effect in calendar year 2031 as well. Overall, when we look at the new treatment standards plus other likely capital facility improvements that are needed at the wastewater treatment plant, that total could be somewhere between $20 to $25 million on that. If it is that high, you could be looking at rate increases somewhere to 30 to 40% through the year 2031 to fund the wastewater increase. And once again, this is just an incremental step with it. I would also like to mention for both the water and wastewater utilities, what's being proposed with this budget is a cost of service study. So that's something that we can do before we start the rate studies, the rate increases as well, if we choose to do this for this initial increase as well. And that would be having a consultant looking at the actual cost of actually serving the various cities' customer classes for both the water and wastewater utility as well. So usually with that cost of service study, you would adopt new rates based off the cost of service study. So with that, that is something that we'll discuss at a later date if we want to have the cost of service study done before we have rate increases, or if we want to go ahead with this initial increase with the realization that it's very likely that overall rates will be additional rate increases that will be needed to fund capital improvements for both those utilities. As far as city employees are concerned, there's no new employees that are proposed with this budget. However, what the city is doing is we're budgeting a 3% compensation increase for our employees. We're also budgeting a 10% increase in health insurance cost as well, and that's the lion's share of the compensation increase as well. So with that, Mr. Mayor, this budget is very heavy on capital infrastructure projects. As we discussed, council is well aware during our budget work sessions that were held on March 30th and 31st of this year as well. From an operational standpoint, it's the status quo of proposed operating budget for the city of Pella, and overall we are recommending approval this evening.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Any written comments received?
No written comments.
Council comments?
I was gonna ask maybe more a question about our present budget. We're at, we're showing that we're gonna have a $4.8 million reserves. Now the re-estimated that's part of this is $3.3 million, so about a 1.5. Is there any idea where that's maybe has happening as we guessed a year ago on what we're gonna end up with?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question, Councilmember Bannister. Mandy, or Heidi rather, could we go back to the financial statement? What Councilmember Bannister is actually referring to as the current fiscal year that had a budget increase of right around $4.8 million. If you look at the state budget forms, we actually had planned increase in reserves of $3.3 million this year. Usually at this time of year with the estimated, what staff does is they do a rough estimate on the totals and specifically capital improvement projects. The lion's share of that decrease is simply due to timing differences on capital improvement projects. So these would be projects that could be budgeted in fiscal year 25 that are occurring in 26 on that expenditure. So it's just a reconciliation on that as far as the state budget forms are concerned. But from an operational standpoint and going through the city's pro formas, all budgeted funds are at their operating or will meet budget this year as part of the operations. The capital improvement projects, due to the size of the city's capital improvement program over the last 2 to 3 years, there's very likely timing differences that are making up the lion's share of that.
Okay, anything else? Any member of the audience have a comment? Come to the microphone.
Thank you. Harry Ehrlich, 725 Countryside Lane. Didn't want this major milestone of the city to go unappreciated. The staff have done a great job of putting together a comprehensive budget. I attended your 2 work sessions, but didn't have an opportunity to comment. But and this is not a criticism, it's actually just an observation. The property tax increase on the same rate must be a function of growth and some kind of valuation change. I went back and looked at 10 years of history. The city's average 11% increase in property tax over 10 years. So we're still staying in that range, but as has been pointed out by the staff, that may change in the next year to two, only from the standpoint of some kind of legislation and capping or limits, et cetera. And as a taxpayer, I'm interested in support of that as long as it doesn't harm the ability of the city to provide services. We're providing, I think, a pretty good level of service currently, and I want to hopefully support keeping that. But that does concern me. The second part of that is the TIF revenues. Those are going up substantially based on the development that have been approved, the agreements. But I don't see any reference to low and moderate income housing program. We talked about it about 6 months ago, the council did. I don't see it discussed in the budget. Either it's not coming or it's going to come as a separate program that this staff may be developing. I just think we need to do that because we're collecting the revenues, and I think you can only keep them collected for so long to have to show effort to be spending them. So I'll just encourage you to develop that program, get citizen input also on it. The second observation is on the LOSST revenues are shown as fairly flat. Now, is that conservative budgeting? Is it concerned that they may not go up? Because I know in the discussions of the recreation center, you're talking about 2.5%, 3% increases over time. And if we're less than 1%, if that's based on some economic projection, that's a concern. Although I think with inflation and with growth, they should increase. So I think hopefully you're being conservative. Third comment is about the airport, and I did attend the last airport committee meeting and kind of monitoring that as a pilot, and as living also close to the airport. Your CIP that is probably going to increase more than what's on the budget. 10% of it, if that's a city portion, is going to be almost 700,000 more in the next 5 years. So we have to be looking at how is that going to be an impact. This year you've got it balanced, but again, it's increasing in terms of a cost to the city. And finally, in the water program, with some experience there, I was surprised to see the revenues increasing as more than the 10% that is projected in the rate increase. Now that may be budget to budget. There's a lot of factors. I understand that. I'm not trying to overstudy it, but it's a concern only from the standpoint of not collecting more than you need. But obviously the CIP is, as staff said, is pretty heavy. The wastewater, well, let me go back for a second. This last week I had the experience of having my meter replaced because the battery went dead. And you can't read the meter without the battery. And all the houses in my area are at least 10 years old, 12 years old, et cetera. And with some prior experience in AMI and other things, I would suggest that the increasing amount allocated to meter replacement is more than justified. In fact, it may be low based on the aging of your system. And I would support the staff being somewhat assertive in that area, because without that, you're going to be potentially losing billed water. And that is a function of how much water is delivered and how much goes through the meter, whether the meters are accurate. They should be changed out about every 10 years. Anyway, that's another discussion later. Wastewater revenues are pretty consistent with what you're saying. But in summary, what I'm saying is it's a well-done budget. There's some other detailed things, some projects here and there that are moving around, but you've got more than enough to do this fiscal year. And I just hope that the council can stay focused on that and keep those programs and projects moving. So thank you.
Thanks, Harry. Anyone else? All right, then I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So
Support.
Van Strylen, Banstra, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Van Strylen.
yes.
Banstra.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Motion passed. Resolution number 7055 entitled Resolution Adopting the Fiscal Year 26-27 Annual Budget and 5-Year Capital Improvement Plan. I have a motion for approval.
So moved.
Support.
Master and Stryland, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
DeAnstruck,
Yes.
Van Strylen,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Hopkins,
yes,
Motion passed. New Class C retail alcohol license for Twee Dutch Hospitality LLC, doing business as Intel's Meat Market. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, as Mayor DeWart stated, what we have this evening is a request for a new liquor license for Twee Dutch Hospitality, and as Mayor DeWart stated, doing business as Intel's Meat Market, and specifically they've applied for a 12-month Class C retail liquor license. If approved by the council, the new license would expire on April 30th of 2027. It is important to note that the application was completed online in the state of Iowa, and staff is recommending approval this evening.
All right, can I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support.
Van Strylen, Banstra, any discussion?
It's actually, Harold and I would say it's Twee.
That is Twee.
Well, Twee is gonna, that's as good as you're gonna get out of it, sorry.
I stand corrected.
All in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Van Strylen,
Yes.
DeAnstruck,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Hopkins,
yes,
Motion passed. I believe we do this every other meeting, a review of the Indoor Recreation Aquatic Center change order summary. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. As Mayor DeWart stated, we usually review the administrative committees, the change order summary that we've approved to date on the project. And as you can see, we do have, as far as the committee, we have up to $300,000 as authorization. And specifically, this is for smaller change orders. And it's really intended to keep the project moving along. The discretion that our committee has for this is to approve any single change order up to the amount of $20,000. And we have an overall authorization of $300,000. And as you can see, we have just issued just under $200,000 of change orders this year. Now, overall, when we talk about change orders for the Recreation Center, we had budgeted right around $900,000 for change orders. Based off what we see, this plus the major change orders that the City Council's considered, we think that amount's going to be somewhere about $550,000 to $600,000 overall for the project. So the project should be coming in on budget, or if under budget as well from our perspective with it. So with that, we think this committee's worked really well. The committee is chaired by Councilmember John Butler, Bob Veenstra, and myself are the other two members on the committee, and it takes unanimous approval of change order request to approve these administrative change orders. And Councilmember Butler, did you have any additional comments?
Well, when I look at the list, number 18 is missing, but it falls outside the parameters of this committee. But it was a change order for about $83,000, and that was approved. So somehow or another, it seems like we should show that too in there somewhere. outside the allocation of 20.
Well, I think there's discussion, I don't know if it's coming up, discussion of the total
Okay.
change orders. I don't know if that was in our packet.
One,
Would be included, there's more than 1 and 2 were,
Yeah, there's 1 and 2.
Yeah.
That's the most
those
recent.
were bigger ones that we had to, council had to approve. This is just the committee's change orders.
I understand.
About half of what we believe the project would be is the smaller change orders would be up to about $300,000. And we think we'll have about $300,000 of major change orders based off what we know to date. So, with that, let's go ahead and show some pictures. And I'd like to ask our Community Services Director, Spencer Winston-Reed, to actually get just a summary on the construction of the project today.
Spencer Winston-Reed, 1318 North Prairie. So there's 3 pictures over here on the screen you're looking at here. We'll go left to right. So for this left one's a picture of the pool as it currently sits. You'll see on the right, furthest right, that's area, there's like an elevated sections, like a built-in stair, like a seating area over there. And this is like your 25-meter pool. This is gonna be your competition pool. It's gonna be so precise that when you guys break world records, it'll count in this pool. So, it's great. Picture in the middle, the bottom in the middle, that pop-out is like a room you can rent in this space. It's gonna be all glass encased. It's gonna be beautiful. It's gonna overlook north going towards Vermeer's plant. And then from this room, you can walk out onto like a deck patio, an elevated patio deck area. And it's gonna be a beautiful rentable space, or just you don't have to rent, you can just go hang out in it too. But anyway, it's gonna be fantastic when it's done as well. And then this furthest right picture is the precast walls, and that's all up as far as the precast goes, and they're putting in glass now. So the shell of the facility is pretty well done. They're still doing the roof, they're still doing the glass, but their goal is to get it all put together as far as the outside goes here by, I believe, May. So that's their goal. So then they don't have to worry so much about the weather holding them back so much. Mike, is there anything you want to jump in with that?
No, just unless council has questions on the status of the construction of the project. I guess there is one question, Spencer, just to reemphasize. As far as the estimated completion date on the project, still right around summer?
We're thinking about August of next year, July, August of next year. So they're hoping to do some catch-up work here. Rick's telling me they're hoping to catch up some days, but yeah, I think in August of next year, we're beating that. Yeah, that's about it right there. So. Okay. Thank you.
Well, if you wanna go out, find Rick, get your hard hat and your vest, and he'll give you a tour. Quite an impressive facility. Okay, moving on, resolution number 7056, entitled Resolution Approving Amendment Number 2 to the Professional Services Agreement with Shive Hattery, modifying site plans for the Indoor Recreation Center project. Mike?
I guess, Mr. Mayor, as Mayor Ward stated, what we have here is a proposed amendment to our engineering services contract with Shive Hattery for the Indoor Recreation Center. The amount of the amendment that we're considering this evening is for $4,800, and it's for site plan modifications. And specifically, if you look at the new University Street extension project that we have, University Street will be extended from 240th Avenue all the way up to 250th Avenue, and that's going to serve as the primary entrance for the Indoor Recreation Center. Now, as a part of that project, there'll be a trail on the south side of the University Street that will extend out to the rec center. And that trail is gonna just stop, or it'll cease the University Street project just on the far western entrance for the Indoor Recreation Center. What this amendment is if you look at the trail project, which we're going to be proposing later on this year, is extending from University Street to connect it to the Pella Sports Park Trail. What this amendment does is it modifies the site plan, and it deals with access issues as far as getting pedestrians across the parking lot at the rec center. Bob Beanster's reviewed the amendment. He thinks it's reasonable for the scope of the amendment that we have on it. And once again, this occurred after the project was led as far as the talking about the trail extension with it. So more details to come. The first things first, is we have to get our site plan modified for the rec center to be able to accommodate a trail connection from University Street to the trail system in the Pella Sports Park. So with that, Mr. Mayor, that concludes the staff presentation. Be more than happy to answer any questions on this item.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Ms. Stryland?
Support.
Manstrom. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Dan Stryland.
Yes.
DeAnstruck.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Motion passed. Resolution number 7057, entitled Resolution Approving Agreement with Pella Regional Health Center for Transport Services. Mike?
I guess, Mr. Mayor, just a high level summary of what this Mayor Ward stated is we have a proposed contract for with Pella Regional Health Center, and this involves our ambulance department and the transport services that we provide for Pella Regional Health Center. So this would be transporting patients from Pella Regional to other hospitals throughout the state and outside the state actually with it as well. Now, as far as the details of the agreement, what we have here is a proposed 3-year agreement that would extend through December 31st, 2028 on this as well. And we have some of the operational details as far as what we're guaranteeing as far as the number of transports that performed during weekdays? And the answer to that is between normal business hours. What we're signing up for is to provide up to 2 concurrent transports during those hours of the day. Single transports would be provided on evenings, weekends, and during holidays as well. And in addition, the city would also be obligated to buy also any required purchases for our ambulances in order to be able to provide the transport services. Now, as far as the fees are concerned, with Pella Regional, and this is in addition to any patient fees that we may charge for the transport services, Pella Regional has agreed to pay the city $200,000 per year on it, for a total of $600,000 over the 3-year agreement. And so with this, Mr. Mayor, before we open it up to questions, I'd just like to make sure that I'd like to thank Pella Regional Health Center for their cooperations on this, and also for this agreement. It's valuable to the city of Pella. And I'd also like to thank Mayor DeWard and Chief Higginbotham for their assistance on this contract. And with that, be more than happy to answer any questions the council may have on this proposed contract.
Did you originally have an agreement with 1 year with them?
Yes. Yeah.
Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support.
Mr. Island, Banstra. Now discussion, questions. I just want to reiterate what Mike said. I want to thank the hospital for going into this agreement with us. Greg and I and Mike had some intense discussions with both the leadership at the hospital and the board at the hospital, and so I'm very appreciative that we were able to come to an agreement. A year ago, they did $395,000. They gave us $395,000, which we used $200,000 that to buy that Sprinter ambulance. The other $195,000 was for operations, help subsidize. All the parties involved have been extremely pleased with the relationship and how it's worked over this last year. So it's very positive, and it obviously helps us with the cost of operating the ambulance. So I want to make sure I publicly say how much I appreciate the hospital working with us on this.
I'll add to that. I was, first term, I was on the countywide committee along with Greg, and nothing is easy about EMS financing. Nothing is easy. So kudos to everybody for coming to agreement, particularly including the hospital for stepping to the plate. I just had the one question. Is there any limit on the place where the transport could go? Is it just Iowa City and Des Moines, or can it go to Mayo or Omaha? Or
so the hospital knows we're guaranteeing 1 transport, so that could be wherever they decide it's going to be. But they have to know that if they're going to send us to Rochester, they're not going to probably have another transfer. We're not going to be available for another transfer for probably about 8 hours or so until we get back from that transfer.
okay.
Okay. All right, we'll vote on the motion. All in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Van Strylen,
Yes.
Vanstra,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Hopkins,
Yes.
Motion passed. Resolution number 7058, entitled Resolution Approving Distribution of Preliminary Official Statement. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to explain this item. As Mayor DeWard stated, what this resolution would do is approve the distribution of the city's official statement, and this is for a proposed bond issue of general obligation capital loan notes 2026B in the amount of just shy of $5.5 million. Now, overall, when we talk about this proposed bond issue, the proceeds of this are going to be used on the University Street and Baseline Drive extension projects, as well as the sanitary sewer infrastructure projects that are currently taking place as well. And really, when we look at the official statement, this would be the city's official statement that would be used, bond investors would use and rely on considering the purchase of the city's bonds as well. So with that, we're requesting approval of the official statement this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support.
Banstra and Strylen. Any discussion? Did any of you read through that thing? It's a lot of pages long. But there is a lot of very interesting information. It talks about Mahaska County and Marion County and the City of Pella, valuations and populations, and I found it quite fascinating. Anyway, it's incredibly long, a lot of pages, but it was very interesting. All right, we'll vote on the motion. All in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
DeAnstruck,
Yes.
Van Strylen,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Hopkins,
Yes.
Motion passed. Can I get a motion for approval of abstract of bills number 2197?
So moved.
Support.
Mansur, Van Strylen, any discussion or questions? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
DeAnstruck,
Yes.
Van Strylen,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Hopkins,
Yes.
Motion passed. Any council member have any other business you'd like to have addressed this evening?
I have a question on, I got an email about a deadline to apply for some money from the FAA. May 1, we have to put an app in for money to pay for our snow removal equipment. What am I talking about?
Actually, I'd like to refer that question back to our Public Works Director, Will Nixon.
Yes, we had a meeting last week with the FAA over in Dubuque, and we're discussing the funding that we have available through the allocation that we get each year from FAA. Some of that over time expires and passes on. The concern was, would we be able to get everything done through to them by May 1st. We had a couple of phone calls today discussing that further with them. We're working on getting this sorted out. I don't think long term it will be a problem. It's an issue with how the FAA handles their funding disbursement, and I'm sure you won't be surprised. It's a somewhat complex process, being federal funding. But it will be coming our way in due course. It is a difficulty, but it's not a problem. If that's and that's not an avoidance or a prevarication. That's just the reality. Can I elucidate further?
No, that's fine. I'm glad to know you're pressing it.
Yeah.
So, and the other issue out there that I'm puzzled by is where do we start selling the land that we're not going to use? Does the city council have to tell the regional authority, go ahead? Because it seems like at some point the FAA, it sounds to me like the FAA is waiting for us to sell the land.
Mayor, do you want to address it, or would you like me to?
Well, I think that there is a separate entity called the SCRAA, which, are you on? I
I'm
think,
on that,
yeah, I think
yes,
you're on
and
the
I-
board.
and
yeah.
we have not
And
talked
I'm on the
about
board.
selling the land.
Yeah, so, that'll have to be handled through that organization.
Okay, I can't wait for the next meeting.
Because it's not just us, obviously, City of Oskaloosa is part of that also,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
we can't unilaterally do anything without an agreement
Okay, so it initiates from the,
from the SCRA.
okay, all right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because that's who owns that land, is the
Yeah.
SCRA.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Okay? Any member of the public have any other business you'd like to have addressed this evening? If so, please come to that microphone, state your name and address. Please try to limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Karma Ruthven, 300 West Fifth Street. I have a couple things. First, we live on the corner of University Street and West Fifth Street. And so cars fly by during University Street. So the speed limit when you're coming into Pella from like the dam way is 30. It switches to 30 there by Methodist Church. Then you go on and you're over by like West First, just before Central College, and then it's 25. Well, why isn't it or how can we get it to be 25, that whole stretch? Because Central isn't any different in regards to the crosswalk there by the treatment plant. That gets used frequently by the bikers, by the cross-country kids, by the track kids, by Central College kids. You know, it's a constant busyness. And people don't stop there because there is no light there. I mean, yeah, you have the flashing, those up there, but they don't look at that. So when your speed limit is 30, people are going 35. So if you knock it down to 25, like everybody, they go 5 over. So then they're going to be going 30, technically. So who is the one that could do anything about it?
Mrs. Ruthven, what I would suggest is we have our police department review this concern. And what I would ask is, there was Chief McShahey back there as well as Captain Hossey. If you could go and please give your contact information to them and let them, they will look to it.
Well, and I know the policemen or the policewomen sit there at the water treatment plant to catch people, and they do catch them. But it's just due to the fact you go up there by Central, and there's a crosswalk there, and it's lit, they push the button, and people do stop. And it's slower, because it's 25 there. So I don't know what the difference is in that strip, that it can't be 25.
What I would suggest is have our police department take a look at the concern, and if the council would like to further discuss this, we can come back, but otherwise they'd probably put it in their summary of what they had, or if there was a concern, they would review it and agree that there should be a speed limit change. We would start it off with coming back with policy and planning session, and it could always be requested by the city council, but the very first step is having the police department look at this, so.
Okay. Then, when you go out to Brook Circle, when you're going into Brook Circle, you go straight, and then you can either go left or right. There is no yield signs, stop signs, nothing. People come in there, and they fly around one of the, either left or right, no turning signals, and there's nothing there to warn anybody as to which way they're going, or to slow them down. Or when you're wanting to come out of Brook Circle, you know, it's the same thing. So is there any way that there could be, if you don't want a stop sign, you know, maybe a couple yield signs, you know, as you come in, and then you have to go either left or right. So.
I think that kind of falls in the same boat, if we could actually have the police department review that as well. And once again, if they thought at the intersection that there's justification for your yield or stop sign, we'd be back at policy and planning, and either way, they'll have it in their report to council on this as well. But the first step is to have an evaluation by the police department.
Well, I don't know if anybody has, you know, brought that issue up or has, noticed it or what, but, you know, anyway.
Yeah,
So-
I think any traffic discussion or changes starts with the police department. So if you want to have a conversation with them, give them more details about what you're talking about, they'll be happy to have a conversation.
Has there ever been an accident there? Chief's on the hot seat.
Tough to answer that question. I have to do a little bit of research, so. If you have any talk, you just, come give your information and we'll discuss your concerns here.
Okay, my last thing is what I've mentioned before is the alley back of the post office. Is there any way, is that the police department too, in regards to when you're going onto Broadway, to either put 2 compact signs for vehicles there and no truck or vans? Because there again, I've tried, and I've seen bicyclists, and you have to creep all the way, practically, onto Broadway, and then, there's a car coming in.
Yeah, once again, I
Okay, we'll move to policy and planning. We have a discussion about a potential change for peddler and solicitor permits tonight.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. As Mayor DeWart stated, what we're here to talk about is proposed ordinance modification that would allow peddlers or door-to-door solicitors to actually solicit in residential neighborhoods, in fact, in all city zoning districts. So currently, just as it applies to solicitation, and they're commonly referred to as peddlers under the city code, what solicitors are allowed is they're permitted to solicit in commercial zoning districts for the city of Pella. And traditionally, residential districts have not been allowed. They've not been allowed in residential districts. We had a firm last year that applied for a solicitation or peddler's permit through the city, and they requested to actually solicit in residential neighborhoods, and this issue was referred along to the city attorney. The name of the firm is Active, and what they've done is they've questioned the legality of the city zoning code, and specifically restricting peddlers to just allowing only commercial zoning districts. So after discussing this issue last fall with the city council directed staff to draft modifications to the city code to address Active's concerns. And that's what we're here about this evening, is to talk about modifications to the peddler permit ordinance for the city of Pella. So let's go ahead, please, Heidi. The first item is it applies to solicitors and peddlers on this. They'd be allowed in all zoning districts. And I'm backing up. What we want to make sure is before we present a formal ordinance for council's consideration that there's any additional research city staff needs to do or any additional items that we need to include in the ordinance. That's the purpose of tonight's discussion, is to get feedback before we present a formal ordinance. So the first item here is we make a change. Instead of just limiting peddlers to commercial zoning districts, they'd be allowed in all zoning districts, including residential. Second item that we have, as far as the applications, they'd be required to submit criminal background checks as well as certified driving records to city staff. And city staff would review those items before issuing permits. So that would be a change to the ordinance. They would be required to provide that information to the city. Now, as far as the property owners are concerned, there'd be a couple items there in case the property owners wish not to have solicitors to their door on this. They'd be allowed to post signage on those solicitor signage on the property as well. In addition, the city would maintain a no-knock list. So what that means is people, we have on the city's website a listing of residences that solicitors, even if they got a permit from the city, they would not be allowed to solicit door-to-door on, and we would maintain that list. Now, it is important to note what we have is, since this would be an ordinance, is any violations of the ordinance would be subject to municipal infraction by the city of Pella. And the first infraction on a municipal infraction is a $250 fine on that as well. So there is some teeth to that for violations. Now, as far as operating hours, when we talk about peddlers and solicitors, what's being proposed is Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And in addition, as part of the program, the city would provide identification badges to all solicitors on there. So how residents would know that they've been vetted through the city is they would have a badge along with their permit on them as well. So with that, those are some of the items that we've talked about as far as the program is concerned. And we'll go ahead and get through the rest of it, including the fees, before we open it up to questions or feedback from the council. So Heidi, let's go ahead to the next slide, please. As far as the fees are concerned, this is from an administrative standpoint, will require additional staff time with it, and we've looked at the staff time involved and looked at the fees as the way they currently sit. And what's being proposed is an application fee of $50, a daily permit fee of $50, a weekly permit fee of $150, a monthly permit fee of $300, and then a seasonal permit fee of up to $600 on it as well. And our reasoning for this is between maintaining the no-knock list, the call inquiries, dealing with residents on there, so we believe this is going to require significantly more staff time than what it currently does off this. And so again, these are just initial fees that are being proposed for the services. We think they're commensurate with the services that we're providing for the peddlers to be able to solicit in residential neighborhoods. And so with that, Mr. Mayor, before once again proceeding with a formal vote on this ordinance, we're looking for feedback from the city council on the proposed ordinance.
Okay, so I know we had fairly lengthy discussion last fall about this. Do the items that we talked about and they're listed, if you guys remember, meet what we had discussed? It seems to me they do. The only thing I would change in the presentation on that first slide, we should add the word reluctantly, that the council told staff to start drafting an ordinance, but.
Yeah, I wasn't obviously here last fall. I was questioning whether the time it takes to do a no-knock list seems to be overbearing for city staff, because you have rental houses, people move in and out. Do you do it by name? Do you do it by, I think if we give the signage requirements for a no solicitation, I don't think we need to babysit our residents in that. I think, to me, that does plenty to keep the peddlers, if they don't want the peddlers to keep there, and as people move in and out of houses, we don't have to keep track of names and addresses. So that's, I guess, from an outsider looking at that the first time, I just think that's an overbearing request for city staff when there's another alternative that I think is better and way more visible.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The list would be always out of date almost. And just if they want no solicitors, they have a sign, no solicitors or no peddlers. I think they would know the word solicitor better than peddlers.
You see those, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So, Mandy, can you go back a screen? So we're, the city, we're saying knock out the no-knock list.
That'd be my suggestion.
Save some time and effort.
I think
Well,
it's just a lot of busy work that
I
really doesn't
think
allow for anything.
You're exactly right.
If you think about it, is the peddler gonna say, where's the no-knock list? He's not interested in that. He'll go out and if there's a sign on the door, he'll pass it on.
Yeah.
It's about like that do not call list. I don't know where it's at.
Didn't work.
Just out of curiosity, was the legal reason because we were doing one zoning district and not the other? Or could we say no peddlers at all anywhere?
That's something that probably should be answered by the city attorney on it, and we can make sure.
That was just curious. It's no big deal. I just was wondering what the legal, if it was because of the discrimination between residential and commercial, or the fact that everybody's allowed to peddle if they want to.
I think that was more of it.
It was, okay.
Yeah. And there was a couple court cases, if I remember right, that.
And they won.
Peddlers or solicitors had been successful. So, that's why I used the word reluctantly. So I think, is everybody good with the requirements with taking the no-knock list out of there?
Yep.
Move
Yes.
forward. Okay. All right. You have any updates you want to mention? I know we got our list is ever expanding.
Yeah, there's quite a bit, and if you've asked about some of these that we have up here, I point out a couple of deadlines at dates that we have. We have the Pella Municipal Proposed Capital Improvement Plan or Long-Term Master Plan Improvements. That is scheduled for May 19th on it as well. So we'll be talking about that. The east off Scaloosa Street improvements, as council is aware, we have a contract with Garden and Associates. And when we look at this, the geographical range of that project is, if you look at Old Highway 163, is just east of East 16th Street and extends past the Pella Christian entrance on Old Highway 163 for that project. And what we talked about at the time, when we look at the intersection of 240th Avenue and Old Highway 163, was, and we have a couple options for that. We put it back at the four-way stop when we get done upgrading the road from to a traditional city street. And I think that's going to be a tremendous improvement. Or should we consider a roundabout at that intersection? And council wanted to have a discussion on that. So Garden's waiting for direction from the city before proceeding on that project. we're trying to get that scheduled sometime in June, on is what our thoughts are. Ambulance rates, now that we have our transport agreement, we'll have a policy and planning session on May 5th on ambulance rates as well. And the other items that we have, the stormwater analysis, actually Greenwood Consulting, the principal is Bob Beanstra. We anticipate the stormwater analysis will have a draft report at the end of April on that as well. So again, that's another one that's likely to be sometime either in month or in May or early June on the stormwater analysis. So, and same with the Parks Master Plan, we anticipate receiving the draft at the end of this month as well. So with this, there's a lot of activity going on at the city right now, so there's gonna be some things are stacking up, and we're trying to get dates on a few of these items. So with that, Mr. Mayor, is there any other questions on city projects?
I think we could have a busy May.
Yeah.
We got a lot of new stuff. I mean,
I think we're gonna have a busy summer on this, so.
All right. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
so moved.
Support.
Vanstra, Butler. All in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
DeAnstruck,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Hopkins,
Yes.
Van Stryk.
Yes.
We are adjourned.